I told my wife I wouldn't cry today.
The moral authority of the Catholic Church has been ravaged by too many stories like Matt Golden's.
I was definitely assaulted, and I definitely was molested by Father Ryder, 100%.
Matt was an altar boy in Buffalo back in the 90s. He says Father Dennis Ryder started asking him to stay late after Mass to help count the collection.
You know, count like quarters, dimes, you know, and he'd be, you know, counting, you know, the bigger monetary bills or checks that would come in, and that would be in the rectory. But it would go want to play Nintendo, Super Mario Brothers specifically.
The priest and the altar boy, he says, playing video games back in the rectory.
He would always turn the heat up on higher, and then say, hey, would you want to get more comfortable? You know, take your shirt off. Before I knew it, I don't have any clothes on, and he doesn't have any clothes on.
Did he touch you?
Yeah, we touched each other. Both of us, you know, I would touch his genitalia, he would touch mine.
Matt says it happened again and again and again.
Well over 20 times it happened over the course of 3 years before I finally said, I'm not doing this anymore.
Pope Francis has called for a total war against the abuse of minors, saying that the church needs to do a much better job of protecting kids from what he calls ravenous wolves.
Yes. That's Bishop Richard Malone speaking with Nightline earlier this year in his only national TV interview. He told us he'd made a good faith effort to address the sexual abuse scandal, but some of his decisions came under serious fire, including his decision to restore Father Ryder to the ministry.
At St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Church in Dunkirk, Father Ryder was celebrating First Communions. Are you completely comfortable with that?
I am, because I have to rely upon the good people who are in place, independent of me. Our review board is independent.
Father Ryder denies the allegations, and Malone notes that a church investigation cleared him.
Father Dennis Ryder is alleged to have molested not one, not two, but 3 minors. You suspended him, put him back into ministry earlier this year. Why?
Charlie Specht of the local ABC affiliate WKBW has been holding Malone's feet to the fire.
I've been dealing with so many of these cases, Charlie, that the details in my weary brain seriously get mixed up. Can you comment on that?
Oh, no, I don't want to. Who runs this diocese? Is it you or is it Jerry and Lawler?
It is I.
Specht got help from an unlikely source, the bishop's once devoted personal assistant, Siobhan O'Connor. That's her there, behind the throne. She says she was so disturbed by Malone's handling of the sex abuse issue, she became morally allergic to her job.
I was seeing from the inside that there was a deplorable lack of transparency, and I had to try to do what I could to bring the truth to light.
She quit, but not before photocopying hundreds of pages of the bishop's internal files, detailing clerical sex abuse allegations in Buffalo going back decades, including a binder the bishop kept in the closet of his office, along with the vacuum cleaner.
It was a very large binder.
And what was it?
They were of all pending litigation and past litigation that would have been provided to Bishop Malone when he first started as bishop.
And you took a copy?
I did. I felt that law enforcement particularly needed to have that information. Then I was worried that perhaps they would start to shred things once the stories came out.
In her final days in the bishop's office, a scene straight out of the Oscar-winning movie Spotlight. Charlie ended up following her after she left work one day.
We had heard that she was having some doubts.
He showed us the parking lot where he first approached her and says he could tell she was ready to talk.
I'd been watching him for months before I ever met him. He wasn't letting up on this story. So I knew that if I was going to talk to someone in the media, it would be Charlie.
Who wants some fishies?
It didn't hurt that Charlie is a former altar boy himself.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Siobhan says that's one reason she trusted him to take on the bishop.
I just have never, ever doubted that he was the right person to work with, and that's been a blessing.
I had what I think a wonderful, trusting working relationship with Siobhan. And was I shocked when she took that particular approach? Yes.
I mean, she betrayed you, but she betrayed you for the truth, right?
But to tell you the truth, and this is my recollection, there was never a time when she said, Bishop, we need to sit down and really talk about this.
Did you ever confront the bishop?
I did, twice in writing. He was always very eager to placate me, to tell me not to worry about it, that it wasn't my concern, that wasn't my job, don't get involved.
I mean, I have here an email that she sent to you outlining her disappointment and her concerns.
Yeah, I think yes, I
Do you remember
recall
receiving
this.
that?
But I'm willing to admit that I didn't handle that properly.
Okay.
And I've learned, believe me, I've learned from it.
Do you feel that you've been a good shepherd?
I feel that in the almost 20 years I have been a bishop, I have tried hard to be a good shepherd. I kind of inherited a decades-old, horrific problem of abuse.
In all fairness, Buffalo is not alone. This is a worldwide scandal. Pope Francis himself acknowledges that. In parish after parish, state after state, there's a reckoning underway, prompted in part by the release of the Pennsylvania grand jury report, which alleged a disturbing pattern of church leaders covering up serious allegations of abuse.
Priests were raping little boys and girls, and the men of God who were responsible for them not only did nothing, they hid it all for decades.
At the time Pennsylvania released its report, Buffalo was already in the midst of its own reckoning at Bishop Malone's direction. In March of 2018, he directed the diocese to disclose the names of dozens of Buffalo priests who were credibly accused of abusing children.
There's a list of 42 names, right?
Yeah, we've added to that. Yeah, that was the group at that time that my staff here who work on those things knew were for sure were corroborated.
But we've since learned that as many as 100, maybe even more, were left off that list?
And that was a decision at the time. And this is something, by the way, we continue to evaluate over and over again. We're not finished with that list at this point.
That original list of credibly accused priests did not include priests who belonged to religious orders, like the Jesuits. It didn't include many priests who were deceased, and it left out several priests with multiple accusations of sexual impropriety.
Was this a cover-up?
No, it wasn't a cover-up.
Was it damage control?
No, I don't believe it was damage control. I know that's been said often. And I say it wasn't a cover-up because every single case that has come in has gone to our diocesan review board.
The fact so many names were not on that list is what spurred Siobhan to betray her boss. Some of the new names were later added only after she and Charlie started calling attention to them.
The problem was a lot worse than people knew.
Right, yes.
There's no priest with a substantiated, what you called credible allegation of abuse of a minor in ministry in this diocese. I can testify to that honestly and 100%.
Not true, says Matt Golden. He isn't Father Dennis Ryder's only accuser. There were others, too.
One of my friends, Nick Catano, he was also an altar boy down at Our Lady of Perpetual Help, and he was also molested by Father Ryder.
Matt's best friend, Nick Caetano, is now dead, but Nick's mother says her son told her he'd been abused, and there was yet another complaint against Father Ryder.
There's a letter written by a seminarian that we have here to your predecessor back in 1992.
I'm aware of that one.
Reporting impropriety that he says he witnessed. There may be as many as 3 victims, and yet Father Ryder is still in active ministry.
He is.
Why?
And because that case, again, that whole case went to our review board. And you have to know that these members of the review board are all very respected members of the community, all with expertise, you know, in childhood sex trauma, all legal things. And the salient facts in the allegation did not line up.
The investigator hired by the diocese to review the allegations told us he turned over his report to the church lawyers and outlined his findings to the independent review board. One day later, Bishop Malone reinstated Ryder.
Did you speak with any of the victims?
The victims of this case never came to me. I see victims, I'm seeing a victim this week. Whenever victims wish to meet with me, I meet with them.
I think it's a joke. I could sit square and look into this camera today and say, "I'm still waiting for your phone call, Bishop."
Nightline obtained a copy of the investigator's report, in which he concluded that the 1992 letter written by the seminarian was a fabrication. He also said there were too many inconsistencies in Golden's story, including about the nature of the alleged abuse. The investigator accepted Father Reiter's denials, despite his admission that he had failed a polygraph test.
He took a lie detector test.
He took a lie detector test and he failed. Baffling to me that he still has a job in the diocese.
A lawyer for Father Reiter told ABC News today, quote, "It's an incredulous allegation unsupported by any objective evidence." Earlier this year, his lawyer also told us dredging up these long discounted allegations on this late date serves only to once more unfairly harm Father Reiter's fine reputation as a faithful servant of God. Bishop Malone stands by his decision to put Father Reiter back in the ministry, including giving children their first communion.
Do you think the parents of those kids would be completely comfortable if they knew all the facts?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm comfortable because I know a thorough investigation was done by a competent professional.
But after our initial Nightline report aired, there were more explosive revelations, including secret recordings of the bishop's own voice.
We're in a true crisis situation. True crisis. And everyone in the office is convinced this could be the end for me as bishop.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.